We'll leave their video and audio off as everybody gets in here.
Woo.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for the couple of minute delay. That is entirely on me and not our fabulous author, Josh.
I was still eating. I'm sorry. It's Pancake Day.
Yes. It is National Pancake Day. Go ahead and leave everybody's video and audio off for right now so that we can all focus on Josh and this amazing story. But welcome, everybody. My name is Jenny. I work for Anderson's Bookshop, and we are so excited to have Josh with us today. Josh Funk. The new book is short and sweet, which is Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast #4. But we at Anderson's have been enjoying these books since the very first one came out. They are just staff favorites. They're so much fun to read. And we thought, what better way to celebrate National Pancake Day than to have a little brunch story time. So for any of you who aren't familiar with Anderson's, we are an independent bookstore outside Chicago. We have been actually run and owned by the Anderson family for going on 6 generations. So we really take personally finding the best books and matching them up with you and every reader in your life. So thank you so much for being with us. It really does matter to us. We do take it very personally for your support. And we also take very personally the support of authors like Josh, who has taken out his time to do this for us today. So we want to say thank you for all of that. I'm going to leave the chat open. I'm going to go ahead and drop into the chat the link to the book. So if you don't have a copy yet or you'd like the others, I'll go ahead and throw those links in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to our author who's going to read us a story this morning.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Josh, and I wrote Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And this was my very, very first book that I ever wrote. And it came out about 5 years ago. Now, I don't know if you've read this book before, but I'm going to give a little bit of a summary. Does anybody know what happens when, obviously you're not going to answer because we're all on mute and whatever, but when you close the refrigerator? So in my fridge, the food comes alive. So I wrote a story about it. And this book is called Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And in this book, Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast are racing for the last drop of syrup, causing culinary chaos along the way, causing giant messes and a bean avalanche and all this wild stuff. And when I saw Brendan Kearney's illustrations, I'm Josh, I wrote the words, but Brendan Kearney illustrated all the pictures, and it was so amazing to see this world he created. When he did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write more stories about this world. So I did. I immediately started writing a second book, which is The Case of the Stinky Stench, which the first one was a race. This one was sort of a mystery. And Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. Have you ever opened the fridge and something smelled kind of funny and you don't know what it is? And you're searching and it takes a while. Well, that's what happens in this fridge. And Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast help Inspector Croissant try to figure out what the stinky stench is. And then I thought, what else could go wrong in a fridge? Well, things could get a little bit too cold. Have you ever opened the fridge and something was a little bit too frozen in the back? Maybe like one time I had a hummus and I tried to like scoop some celery out of it, but it was like a hummus ice cube. So in this one, the fridge is starting to freeze over. And I should mention that at the very end of this book, spoiler alert, if you haven't read it yet, it's 5 years old. So you should know that Baron von Waffle gets the syrup at the end of the first book. So he's sort of like their villain nemesis. But in this book, he actually helps them figure out what's going wrong in the freezer and becomes their friend. And so I was reading these 3 books to kids around the country and around all of the bookstores and things like that. And I actually remember specifically when I was at Anderson's one time, I think it was January of 2019. So it's not that long ago, but it feels like, ages ago. And I was lucky enough to visit Anderson's Bookshop. And somebody asked me there, how are they still alive? How are they still not spoiled? They in the very first line of the first book, it says they were leftover friends. So they were leftovers 5 years ago. How are they still not spoiled and all moldy and stuff? And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to address that in the next book. So I did. And in this book, Short and Sweet, Baron von Waffle's now their friend. And I'm going to read this to you. And you'll see why it's called Short and Sweet. And this book is dedicated to all of my nerdy book club friends from Nerd Camp, the Nerd Van, and the OG crew. And I have a lot of nerdy book club friends in in the Chicago area, and many of them came to the event that I did in Chicago, or in the suburbs. All right, ready? Still in the fridge, and behind the Swiss Chard, in their apartment on Crust Boulevard, prepping a tea party ready to host, stood Lady Pancake beside Sir French Toast. Just as they finished the boiling and baking, Pancake said, "All of my muscles are aching." "Also," said Toast, "my complexion is pale." Pancake then screamed, "Are we both going stale?" Are they going stale? Oh no! Baron von Waffle, their guest, said, "You're gruesome. I've never seen such a hideous twosome." The duo was shocked by their newly made friend. Waffle went on, "I don't mean to offend. In fact, it so happens there might be a cure. Check out Professor Biscotti's brochure." This is Professor Biscotti's laboratory. Starting to mildew or curdle or crumble, don't sit around and complain, pout and grumble. Try out my patented de-spoiling ray. Feel fresh and young again. Visit today. Off to Professor Biscotti's they strode, down to her lab out by Artichoke Road. "Greetings," she said as she tightened a gear. "Here for despoiling? Terrific, sit here." And look at that despoiling ray. It's an avocado. It's sliced avocado with a little onion and cheese on the end. It's hilarious. Brendan is amazing at making up all these funny little things. Oh, also, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and I will definitely answer all your questions later. Nervously, Pancake and Toast settled in. Look at those chairs that they're on. And it's they're sitting on a cheese slice. The footrest is a pickle, and the back is a slice of bread. Biscotti gave one tiny knob a quick spin. With whooshes and whistles, a spark and a blast, the gadget emitted a laser at last. "Where did they go?" Waffle asked through the smoke. "Right over here," a falsetto voice spoke. "Look at them. Explain what you did to them," Waffle demanded. Biscotti responded, "I'll be candid. I over-despoiled them with my device. I'm ever so sorry. I'll charge you half price." They turned into tiny little kids. Look at that. Waffle stood fuming. His monocle shook. "Charge us," screamed Waffle. "They're children. Just look." "Eek," shouted Pancake. "Oh, Waffle, I'm scared." "The monster will eat us. Let's run," Toast declared. "Eat you? I'm scary. No, wait," Waffle uttered. "I thought we were friends, but hey," Waffle stuttered. And look, she's got a little teddy bear, and he's got a little blankie. Shrieking, the duo of pint-sized companions scampered and slid all the way to Bran Canyons. Over the great wall of pine nuts they dashed, and down through the fjords of Farfalle they splashed. Out of the lab came a blubbering moan. Baron von Waffle sat weeping alone. "They were my friends, but they ran off and fled. Am I a monster? 'Cause that's what they said." Professor Biscotti approached and began, "The gadget, I'll fix it, but we need a plan." And she's got all these little minions, these cookie minions. You know what Biscotti is? Biscotti is kind of like a crunchy almondy cookie, sometimes with chocolate on top. And she has all these cookie minions. They're her little helpers. "Phew, are we safe now?" asked Toast at Pie Pier. Pancake responded, "No waffles round here." Then in the distance they spotted Lime Square. Pancake asked, "Race ya?" And Toast said, "I'm there." Off to the city they skipped and they hopped until Pasta Playground, where both of them stopped. Look at that Pasta Playground. You think you would want to play at a Pasta Playground? Pancake played fetch with a little pet nugget that scampered away when she offered to hug it. Toast tried the seesaw, the swings, and the slide. That's when he saw something better inside. See what that is? It's a library. We were going to call it the library, but we decided not to. See, there are little berry statues on the ends, like where the lion statues normally are. Yeah, but we decided not to go with the library. We didn't want to perpetuate that mistake. Waffle, still sour, knew just what to do. "This is the bait that'll capture those two." Biscotti kept working in her laboratories, while Pancake and Toast were enraptured by stories. And if you look, it's hard to see from far away, but when you buy the book, you'll see there are all these funny book names that I put in, like Amelia Vidalia and Harold and the Purple Onion, Sylvester and the Magic Pepper, Mushroom on the Broom, The Book with No Pickles, Don't Let the Pecan Drive the Bus, and there's a bunch more. Until the two children inhaled something sweet, and instantly both of them raced to the street. They followed their noses past fjord, wall, and hill, and then kept on running and running until... The old syrup trick, Waffle said with a smirk. Professor, I've got him, so now will it work? And look, he's got little baby bottles of syrup. They've got baby bottles filled with syrup. She answered, I hope so, or else this endeavor might cause your two friends to be children forever. It sparked and it whooshed, it whooshed and it whistled, except nothing sparked. Something is missing, Biscotti remarked. Waffle responded, you've got to succeed. Okay, said Biscotti, but what does it need? Waffle said, looks like the cogs are too slick. Maybe some syrup will get them to stick. You see, syrup is solving all the problems. It got Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast back, and it's fixing the cogs here. It whooshed and it whistled, it sparked and it blasted, and when the smoke emptied, they stood flabbergasted. Yes, said Biscotti, success, they've returned. Waffle, however, looked rather concerned. Biscotti continued, cheer up, you look awful. They called me a monster, remember, said Waffle. So you were the Waffle, said Pancake, appalled. But we were the monsters, Sir French Toast recalled. Waffle, forgive us, dear friend, Pancake moaned. We're ever so sorry, Sir French Toast atoned. Waffle stood silently, face filled with grief, and then Waffle let out a sigh of relief. I worried I'd lost my new friends, Waffle wailed, but everything's normal. You're back, he exhaled. Waffle, said Pancake, we'll always be chums. Exactly, said Toast, till we wither to crumbs. In the apartment, they finished their tea. All of their aches and their molds ceased to be. The trio felt splendid in spearmint condition as friendship prevailed through their small expedition. And then they always have a party at the end, and Brendan Kearney makes up a fun band name. This is Juice Springsteen playing. The end. Here is the magical gatefold that every book has. The end. And that is short and sweet. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I did want to say Brendan is amazing at coming up with these bands. He has, in the last book, it was the Peach Boys, and the book before that, he added Spuddy Holly and the Croquettes. And in this one, he went nuts. He said he made this poster that says Food Fest on the side here, and he's got some other bands like Jimi Hendrix, the Food Fighters, Lunchbox 20. And others. So he's always great at putting those things together. I see someone had asked, let's see, have I ever met the illustrator? The illustrator, I actually have never met Brendan. In fact, so we've been working together this is our fourth book over 5 years. But technically you could say we've been working for more like 6.5 years together, because he started working on Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast probably in early 2014, I would say. And so, but when writers and illustrators make books, usually they don't work together directly. In a lot of cases, the publisher sort of controls things. He lives in England. I've never met him. I almost met him in New York about a year ago, but we missed each other by about a day. But I never even spoke to him. I chatted with him and emailed with him, but I finally did a podcast with him it was last month. And so it was the first time I actually heard his voice. And I saw him on video. The podcast is obviously audio, but we were on a video Zoom. So that was the first time I ever even saw and chatted with him. And he's like super British. I mean, I guess all British people are, but you know, he sounds like he's in the Beatles or something. But it was really cool to, after this much time, just actually chat with him and get to talk to him. And I have 13 books and 2 more that are coming out soon. But I've met a few of the illustrators, but most of them I haven't actually met, which is it's kind of normal for the publishing industry. But yeah. So anyway, that is a great question. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Usually, even like, I don't even give him direct feedback. Anytime that I have any thoughts or ideas about the illustrations, I will tell my editor, and then the editorial team at the publisher will discuss it, and then they'll tell him whatever they want to tell him. But honestly, I mean, I don't know how to illustrate a book at all. So he knows what he's doing, and so does the publisher. I mean, just because I read a lot of books doesn't mean I know how to make a book. I mean, I watch a lot of movies. It doesn't mean I know how to make a movie. So yeah, so I just, I write words, and yeah. Oh, where did I get the idea for the characters? That is a great question. So I got the idea for this very first book. I came down for breakfast. My kids were about 3 and 7 years old or something like that. And I asked my kids what they wanted. And one of them said, I want pancakes. And another one said, I want French toast. And I was like, guys, I am a terrible cook. One time I even burned their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And so while they were eating their burnt waffles, I thought that, I think that might make a fun story, a pancake and toast arguing about something. And I thought, what would they argue about? And one of my kids said syrup. And I thought, brilliant, syrup, of course. But unfortunately, I don't remember which one of them said syrup. So now they argue about who came up with the idea for syrup. So it started with 2 kids arguing about pancakes and French toast. And it continues today, 8 years later, with them arguing about who came up with the idea for the ending. They both think they did. So, so what are some of the puns that didn't make the book? I'm not sure. It's one of those things where, I have to read it over and over again so many times. I've already read this book. I mean, I haven't memorized it quite yet. I'm getting there. It's only been out for a month, but you can see sometimes I get tripped up or I have to look at the words. But I don't know if I remember any puns that didn't make the book. But I will say that that if I did remember them, I probably wouldn't tell you, because I might want to use them in an upcoming book. So sorry, something's in my eye. But yeah. So let's see. Ooh, yes. Put in the comments, what's your favorite breakfast food? Who is on Team Lady Pancake? Raise your hand. And who's on Team Sir French Toast? Put your answer in the comments. Also, I am on. Who's on Team Baron von Waffle, because that's my team. I'm basically the waffle. So these are my kids, and I'm the waffle. I would come and take the syrup before my kids even get a chance. So that's me. Am I planning on making a 4th book? Oh, well, this is the 4th book. But am I planning on making a 5th book? Yeah, I really can't talk about that right now. Publishing is weird. You're not really allowed to say things when you haven't signed contracts yet. So you'll just have to wait, but I'll be sure to shout as soon as I know anything. For when did I know I wanted to be an author? That is a great question. When I was 32 years old. I was 32 years old when I started writing. I am a software engineer. I actually write code during the day, and yeah, I have a couple books about that. I have a book called How to Code a Sandcastle, and there's a sequel called How to Code a Roller Coaster. Did a book fall? Oh, yes. How to Code a Roller Coaster. And so I didn't start writing until I had kids and I was reading to them. That is what happened. I was reading some books that I really, really loved to my kids, and I thought, you know what? I want to try to do this. I was a math and science kid growing up. I was never the best reader or the best writer. I was a, B student in English. I was never an honors English or anything like that. But I did like to write outside of school. I just didn't think of it as writing because it was outside of school. I like to make up my own Garbage Pail Kids cards when I was a kid. And I used to write poetry, but like I wrote a poem about Larry Bird and Roger Clemens, and I was a big Boston fan, sports fan in the 80s. And so but it wasn't for school. It was just stuff I did for fun. And then when I got older, I wrote for the school newspaper, but I just wrote silly editorials, and it wasn't for any grades. It was just like an activity to do. And I had fun with it. I could write whatever I wanted, and somebody would publish it. I was friends with the editor of the newspaper, and he was like, "Sure, just write something." And the same thing with the when I was in college, I played guitar and I wrote songs. So I've been writing my whole life, but I wasn't really I didn't think of myself as a writer. And then when I had kids and I was reading some awesome books to them, I decided I wanted to start. And on that note, I'd like to share a few books today that are some of my favorite books that have come out this year. So let's see. This book here, Speak Up, is by Miranda Paul and illustrated by Ebony Glenn. And it's a really, really great book that is, it's in rhyme for little kids, but about speaking up when you see something that's wrong. And it's an important book for today. By the way, I'm sure Anderson's has all of these. Yes, thank you. Thank you for putting them in the comments, Jenny. I highly recommend this book, Speak Up. It is a really cool book, beautifully illustrated, and it really simply explains and encourages kids when you see lots of different things, times to speak up for yourself, to speak up for others, to speak up for the planet, lots of different reasons to speak up, but definitely a must purchase. Another fun one that I really like is this one. It's called Gerpel and Preen, and it is by Linda Sue Park and Debbie Ridpath Owie. And it is a broken crayon adventure. So it's about these two crayons, Gerpel and Preen, and not crayons, two robots, Gerpel and Preen, like robot aliens. And they crash land on a planet of crayons. And when the crayons break, all these cool things come out of them. And the illustrator, it's based on the illustrator, Debbie Ridpath Owie. She posts on social media all these times. She'll break a crayon and stuff will come out of it. So I think this one's really, really fun and very, very creative. Great for getting the creativity going. Another one that I love is called Water Protectors. It is written by Carol Lindstrom and illustrated by Michaela Goad. And this one is conservation oriented and also is a Native American written and illustrated story that talks about how it's really important to protect water, but also there's a evil villain in here that it's a snake, but you can see that it's really kind of like maybe an oil pipeline or something like that. But We Are Water Protectors is fantastic. I highly recommend it. And it's recently been nominated for some end of year awards, so I would expect this to be getting some seals on it later. And then my favorite picture book of the year is this one, Your Name is a Song. It is written by Jamila Tompkins Bigelow and illustrated by Luisa Uribe. This book, every classroom should have this book. It is about a little girl after the first day of school. Nobody could pronounce her name correctly, and including the teacher. And this is something that happens far too often, and everyone's name is important. And the mom, it basically takes place on the walk home from school. The mom talks to the girl, whose name I won't give away, but she says every name is a song, every name deserves to be sung and deserves to be known and spoken correctly. And yeah, my favorite book of the year. I love this book. Everyone should own this book. So those are some recommendations that I have for you. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. And thanks for supporting independent bookstores, especially Anderson's. They have amazing staff there. I highly recommend that if you don't already, if these books aren't the right book for you, then you can contact Anderson's and they will find the right book for you. Maybe you like graphic novels. They know all the best brand new graphic novels they can find. Maybe you're really into witches. They know all those books. They will find the perfect book or books for you, and definitely support your independent bookstore and Anderson's in particular. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, Josh, you're amazing. Before you go, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. What were some of your favorite books when you were a kid?
Oh, that's a great question. I so when I was really young, I remember loving Caps for Sale. I don't like reading that as an adult. I didn't like reading it to my kids, but I think I know why I liked it. It was the whole "you monkeys, you give me back your caps," and I also wear caps all the time, by the way. So, um, uh, but um, but so I do have a cap thing. I don't know, but yeah. So I don't know. Someday I'll write a book maybe that has a refrain like that I like with some motion of body parts. But so I love that. There was a book called Morris the Moose, which was kind of like Amelia Bedelia a little bit in that he took things literally and just made a ton of mistakes. I don't know if that stood the test of time. I haven't read it recently, but it was kind of an early reader, leveled reader one. And um, and then I loved corduroy. I always wanted to stay up late and jump on beds in a department store. I just think that that would be like the coolest thing to just have a department store to yourself and just jump on all the beds throughout the night. And then when I got a little older, I loved some books like The Westing Game is one of my favorites. I love The Westing Game. It is more like a fourth, fifth grade book. It's an awesome mystery. Still stands the test time. One of the best mysteries. And so I loved that. The Chronicles of Prydain. It was a fantasy series by Lloyd Alexander, and it was a 5-book series. It was before Harry Potter came out. I mean, I love Harry Potter, but Chronicles of Prydain was like in this fantasy world, and it was super, super cool. So that was a fun one that I remember loving. But again, like I said, I wasn't the best reader. I found books that I loved, and I remember, this is before texting and the internet, but I would like call one of my friends when I got to this particular chapter in the Westing Game. I was like, dude, did you figure out this part of the mystery? All the words, they mean this. And like, I remember being so excited, but I didn't always find the next book. And I think part of it was I didn't have an independent bookstore like Anderson's that I could go to help me find the next book, or at least I just didn't go to them very often. So, and also I just, that it was one of those things where I was kind of shy and quiet, and so I didn't ask for help with that. There are librarians out there that are great at helping you find the next book too. So if you're not sure of what to find, then yeah, definitely ask around, ask librarians, and ask your independent bookseller. So. Thank you.
Absolutely. Josh, you real quick, I wondered if a lot of kids like to know kind of the process and how long it really takes to make this book. I think that's, people who aren't in the industry or behind the scenes don't know that. So, how long did it take you from the first idea to seeing that final book in your hands?
So because this is a sequel, it took a little less time because like we already had the illustrator. I already kind of knew what the world looked like. But for the very first book, and not all books, every book has their own story, but for the first book, after I had that idea with my kids, I probably spent about a month writing a first draft. And then I brought that first draft, I shared it with some of my friends. They told me what they liked, what they thought could be better. And then I spent the next 14 months writing 14 more drafts, give or take. And then I eventually sent it out to some publishers. And then it was probably about 6 months later that a publisher said, we like it, we want to make it a book. And then it was still another 2 years before the book came out. So it took 3.5 years from the time that I came down for breakfast on April 1st of 2012. I know exactly when it was because I know when I started the Google Doc later that day. Um, but yeah, until it came out on September 1st of 2015. So it was exactly 3 years and 5 months that it took to make this book. I mean, so think about that. If you had an idea on the very first day of kindergarten, you walk into kindergarten, you're like, I have an idea for a book. And you worked on it for all of kindergarten and all of first grade and all of second grade. It would come out in the middle of winter in third grade. Like that's how long it took to make this. Now I was working on other books during that same time, but still, I mean, for some of the books, the fastest book I ever had come out was about 11 months. And that was because the publisher really wanted it to come out before the holiday season and things like that. But like How to Code a Sandcastle, it needed to come out during the summer because it's the Sandcastle book. So they needed to make sure that it came out. So that one was fast, but it could have been a whole year later. Like if we didn't make the cut for 1 year, but yeah, it takes at least about 2 years for a picture book.
It's a long process. Yeah.
If you're not the author and the illustrator, if they're different people, it takes about 2 years at a minimum.
Right. Well, and think about, picture books have a relatively small amount of words compared to like a big thick novel. So
Yeah, but
there's
the
a lot.
illustrator is illustrating 40 beautiful
Right.
pictures and like I can write 500 words while sitting on the toilet. The illustrator is not going to be able to illustrate a whole book while, sitting on the toilet. So anyway, yeah.
That's what you think, though. There's somebody
Yeah.
that's going to take that as a challenge now. So
I mean, I've never done that, but I'm saying I could write 500
right,
words.
right. Well,
All
does
right.
anybody else have any questions? Any other questions for our author today? I know we've gotten to have a treat of the whole story here. Hopefully you enjoyed it over your end of your breakfast or your morning beverage of choice, whatever that may be. Um, but I know we've got excellent, yes. Well,
Yeah.
there are no other questions, there are some links in the chat to all the books that Josh mentioned that he loved from this year, which is awesome. Thank you so much, Josh, for sharing your favorites with us. Those are some of our favorites for sure as well. And I just wanted you to see, Josh, too, that Garbage Pail Kids is getting a reboot. I don't know if you
Yeah.
caught that. Yes, from R.L. Stein, who is a favorite from our childhood as
Oh,
well.
yeah, that's cool. Oh,
Yes.
what books would I recommend for middle grade readers? Well,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, feel free if you have any recommendations too. My kids are really into graphic novels. I'll be honest. My kids love. Here I have a couple on this shelf here. So let's see. These are not graphic novels and they're sequels, but my son's really into Stuart Gibbs, his
Stuart
stuff.
Gibbs, loved him. Yeah.
Yeah, so he does Spy School, Belly Up. Let's see if I can zoom in here.
Yes.
Is the first one in this series. It's pretty cool. This series here, The Elements of Genius by Jess Keating. This is book 3 in the series, but it's
We
about.
just did an event with Jess.
Yeah, you
For
did.
Bun
Oh,
Bun
yeah,
Bon Bon. Yeah.
I know she's one of my best friends. We chat daily. We basically have like only
She's
on the
great.
week. Yeah, she's great. Oh yeah, New Kid is great. The sequel to New
Here it
Kid comes
comes.
out next week.
October 6th.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And so Class Act, it's called. So I'm very
Mm.
excited about that. But Elements of Genius is fantastic. She also has a graphic novel that just came out. You have that somewhere too, but
Yep.
it's mostly
Bun Bun
picture
and Bon
books.
Bon.
Yeah, Bun Bun and Bon
Super
Bon.
fun.
But this one is
Yes.
super cool. It's more middle grade, and it's kind of like it was described as James Bond without the casual misogyny, but which she loves. That description. But Nikki Tesla, it's about a bunch of geniuses. And so Nikki Tesla is obviously like Nikola Tesla, and there's a whole bunch of there's Leo da Vinci is in their little crew, and they essentially go on and save the world in action adventures throughout all 3 books. I'm in the middle of this one here. The first 2 Elements of Genius are these ones, Nikki Tesla and the Ferret-Proof Death Ray, Nikki Tesla, and what is the second one? Oh yeah, the Fellowship of the Bling. And the second one was awesome. And then this is Nikki Tesla and the Traders of the Lost Spark. So those are some that I highly recommend. Yeah.
I just love, and I love, Josh, that the impetus for your books came from working with your kids, because I think there is something really special right now about children's literature, that it is just as much fun for parents to read to kids as it is for kids to enjoy it. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Spark, not every kid is going to catch that reference, but parents certainly will.
Yeah. And I think that, when I'm writing picture books, I'm a parent, I'm not an educator, but picture books are, for me, I see them as they're meant to be read by an adult to a child. It could be an older sibling, but it could be a grandparent, it could be a librarian, teacher, bookseller, or a parent. And I was the parent reading to my kids. And there were a lot of books that I loved. There were also some books that I was like, I can do better. Now, it was really hard to do better. I took a long time. I wrote some really, really terrible picture book manuscripts to start off my writing life. But when I was 32, I didn't get good for several years. But I will say that I, as a parent, always wanted to be able to be entertained by the books, kind of like a Pixar movie. There's jokes that go over the kids' heads that are meant for the adults, and that's okay. That's it has to be at least 50% for the kids, because if it's more than that, then you have a book like Go the F to Sleep or something. That's like a spoof book for adults. But books for kids are they can be 50%, and so they can be 100% for kids, and those are the ones that I didn't love. But they can be 50%, and you can have parents and kids like them, and that's what I try to write. Books that have jokes that it's great if a kid gets it. I mean, in the second one of these, in the case of The Stinky Stench, I have a few jokes that I really love in here. One of them is about a red herring. They find out literal and figurative red herring. It's a bad clue. So, because that's what the definition of a red herring is, a bad clue. But it is an actual red herring, smoked herring. And so, but I've had third graders say, we studied mysteries, we know what a red herring is, and they get really excited when that comes up in this book. So kids can get some of those things. Don't underestimate your kids. I like to use big words because if a kid doesn't get it, then they can look it up or they can ask their parent. And if the parent doesn't know, then they can look it up too. But most likely, they're just going to learn the word based on it. So that's what I enjoy doing with the books that I write. And so that's that. Yeah, Dusty Bowling is great. Her books are fantastic too.
Yes.
And have I made videos of me reading my stories? Sometimes, but due to copyrights, we can't keep them up forever. So there are people who've done it on YouTube, not me, which technically they probably shouldn't do, but but yeah, so I don't have videos. There are some
publishers that have extended their copyright for the year because of the quarantine.
Yeah, there are publishers who are letting people do it for now, usually for educators, for educational purposes, not just for anyone, because they do want to sell books. It is a business and stuff like that. But I will say I have made on my website, joshfunkbooks.com, and I'm Josh Funk Books everywhere. There is free downloadable coloring pages if you want to download and print coloring pages for a bunch of my books, including Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And there's also some trailers. Just go to the Stuff for Kids tab. There's some musical book trailers. I wrote songs and put them along to trailers for all of the books. Yeah, I did have fun with that. And I do Zoom with students. Just message me on there's a educator tab on my website too, if people are interested. Yeah.
And I'm going to throw, actually, we also provide books for virtual school visits. So for Lori, looks like he's asking, or anybody else, you can go ahead and email us at andersons@andersonsbookshop.com, and we'll connect you with the folks who handle that on our end too. So thank you for being an educator, Lori. I know hopefully we can do something to make your life a little easier right now.
And you also do, this is a different thing, but you do book fairs for schools too.
Right, and we have actually made those all virtual this year.
Yeah.
We do virtual book fairs, and we're also in the process, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. We are in the process of creating a like a community fundraiser. So if you're not able to do a book fair in your school because your school is virtual, you can work with us to do like an in-store kind of fundraiser thing to help bridge some of those financial gaps that I know people are having this year for nonprofits and for schools. So.
Yeah, one of the great things about, I know like Scholastic does book fairs too, and those books are
not as well as we do.
They're inexpensive and they're not particularly well made, but I will say they do things it's great for communities that don't have access to independent bookstores. They do a lot of good things, but with independent bookstores, they really will cater it to your community.
Right. So our book fairs are absolutely picked to whatever your community is, and we do carry Scholastic titles in our stores and in our book fairs as well. But there's definitely something to be said to have a curated mix of what works for a specific community. So
exactly.
Fantastic. Well, you guys have had some good questions. Lori, I'm so glad you are trying to get your kids excited. We're here to help. Let us know if we can help. And I do just want to let you guys know normally we'd be doing this in person, right? Normally we'd be doing about 400 of these a year in person. But unfortunately, COVID has made that not possible right now. So we're glad that we can do this virtually with you and that everybody can join us. We do have some other things coming up I want to let you guys know about. We just announced next Wednesday we are doing an event with Duff Goldman as he bakes for kids. It's a baking book just for kids.
He made my wedding cake. He made my wedding cake. Yeah, I got married in Baltimore, and it was before he had a show. And it was in 2004, and we're like, oh, there's this guy who was in Baltimore Magazine, and then like a year later, it's like, oh, this guy's got a show on TV, and now he does a ton of stuff. But yeah, he made it was so good. Oh yeah.
He came to Anderson's a couple years ago, and for an in-person event, it was so much fun. But this one is all about baking for kids, so great connection. I love it. And then the other, we have another picture book storybook time coming. Picture book story time. Woo! Coming. I need some more of my wake up beverage here. Coming on October 4th. The book is called The Oboe Goes Boom, Boom, Boom. by Colleen Venable. It's going to be so fun. Another great way for educators and parents. This one's on a Sunday morning. It's going to be or late afternoon, early afternoon. It's going to be super fun. So check out our website for all the things we have coming up.
That book, The Oboe Goes Boom Boom Boom, it was so my local bookshop, the Concord Bookshop in Massachusetts, always highlights one picture book each week. And that was the book that they highlighted this week, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a really fun book. Definitely.
I'm very excited about it. I was a band kid. My husband was a band kid. My kids are band kids. So when I saw it, I was like, we got to do this. This sounds so much fun. So fantastic. Well, look at you with all the connections to all the things we have going on. I love it.
Awesome.
You've got a good kids author here when they know everybody else going on. So Josh, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yes. And remember, you get your signed books. If you ordered a signed book, those will be available starting on Monday. Give us a couple days to get that together. Thank you, Josh, for sending those book plates. Everybody can have signed books. And if you need any more, the links are in the chat there or on our website of any of Josh's books. We can get signed for you. And thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.